Amelia's day began like most others, 5:30 a.m., tired bones, and a cup of instant coffee that never quite tasted right. The city of Elmridge was barely waking up as she slipped into her faded sneakers and wrapped her long brown hair into a ponytail. She lived in a tiny studio apartment above an old tailor shop. The walls were thin, the heater barely worked in the winter, and the ceiling leaked when it rained, but it was home. The café where she worked, Sage and Time, wasn't fancy. Just a local spot with mismatched chairs and handwritten chalkboard menus. But it was a quiet refuge for a range of souls, college students with laptops, lonely old men sipping black coffee, and single moms juggling toddlers and takeout cups. Amelia had worked there for nearly 3 years. She was polite, hard-working, and invisible to most. Her life revolved around work, studying at night for online courses she couldn't afford, and sending half her paycheck to her grandmother in Idaho. She had dreams, but they felt like distant stars, pretty, unreachable, slowly fading. That morning, the wind howled through the trees. Rain tapped the window panes like soft applause. Amelia lit the candles on each table, humming under her breath. She didn't know yet that the man who would change her life forever was about to walk through the door. Michael Reed was not the kind of man who ate in cafes like this. CEO of multiple tech companies, worth over $1 billion, his schedule was usually booked with boardrooms and private jets. But today was different. He had taken a rare day off to be with his daughter, Sophie. She was 9 years old, sharp-minded, and born with a rare form of muscular dystrophy that confined her to a wheelchair. Despite the round-the-clock care she required, she had a light in her that softened everyone, except, perhaps, her father. Michael loved his daughter, but he didn't understand her. Not really. He paid for the best therapies, the finest nurses, and high-end medical equipment. But emotionally? He was a man who built empires, not bedtime stories. That morning, Sophie had begged him to take her somewhere normal. Not a hospital, not a therapy center, not home. Just, like a place people go. She didn't want luxury. She wanted real life. Reluctantly, Michael agreed. They found the café purely by chance, a small, warm-lit place on a street corner that smelled like cinnamon and hope. Amelia noticed them immediately. The tall man in the expensive coat looked out of place. But it was the girl in the wheelchair who caught her attention. Her eyes were curious, searching, alive. Amelia walked over with her notebook. "Good morning. What can I get you?" Sophie looked up. "Do you have hot chocolate?" "Best in town," Amelia winked. "And you?" she asked Michael. He barely looked up. "Coffee. Black." As Amelia turned to go, Sophie called out softly, "Can I get extra cream on top?" "You'll get whipped cream, chocolate drizzle, and a sprinkle of magic," Amelia smiled, and for the first time that morning, Sophie laughed. It was a sound Michael hadn't heard in weeks. Behind the counter, Amelia carefully steamed milk, added melted dark chocolate, and whisked in vanilla. She topped the cup with a swirl of cream, dusted it with cinnamon, and placed a tiny cookie on the saucer. No shortcuts. No rush. She remembered how, as a child, her own mother used to make cocoa on cold days when everything else was falling apart. Amelia set the cup gently in front of Sophie like it was a treasure. "There you go, sweetness." Sophie beamed and took a careful sip. Her eyes widened. "This is amazing." Michael looked up from his phone. The way his daughter looked at the waitress, with gratitude and joy, did something to him. It embarrassed him, in a way. That this young woman had given his daughter more happiness in 2 minutes than he had all month. He watched quietly as Amelia chatted with Sophie while wiping tables. Nothing forced. Just warmth. He finished his coffee, set the cup down, and reached into his coat. With steady hands, he wrote a check, folded it into a napkin, and placed it under Sophie's empty cocoa cup. "We should go," he said, his voice softer than usual. Sophie hesitated. "Can I say goodbye to her?" Michael nodded. Sophie wheeled over to Amelia. "Thank you. That hot chocolate was the best part of my week." Amelia leaned down and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "You're the best part of mine." They left. 15 minutes later, while clearing the table, Amelia found the napkin. She unfolded it. The check inside made her knees buckle. $20,000. There was a note scribbled on the corner. "For the education you deserve. Thank you for reminding me how important small kindness can be. Michael Reed." She stood frozen for a moment. The café faded away. Her hands trembled. And she cried. That day changed everything. Amelia used the money to enroll in a university nearby, majoring in child psychology, something she had always dreamed of but could never afford. She still worked part-time at the café, but her eyes sparkled with new purpose. The regulars noticed. She smiled more. Dreamed louder. Michael, meanwhile, couldn't stop thinking about the girl behind the counter. He had built companies from the ground up but never imagined kindness could move him like this. That evening, he told Sophie a bedtime story. Not one from a book, but a real one. About a waitress who made the best cocoa in town and changed the heart of a hard man. Over the next few weeks, he set up a foundation. The Sophie Grace Foundation, a fund for children with disabilities, offering therapy, equipment, and scholarships to caregivers and aspiring specialists. Quietly, he funded it with millions. Amelia was the first recipient of its scholarship program. But not the last. She didn't know it yet, but that cup of cocoa had become the seed of something vast. The event hall glowed with warm lights. Dozens of families, children in wheelchairs, single parents, therapists, and caregivers had gathered for the annual gala of the Sophie Grace Foundation. Amelia, now 25, stood near the stage in a soft blue dress. She had graduated with honors. She worked as a licensed child therapist, specializing in children with disabilities. Her work wasn't easy, but it was meaningful. She spotted Sophie across the room, now 12, taller, with glasses and a big grin. Michael approached. His usual seriousness was softened by pride. "It's good to see you again," he said. Amelia smiled. "I never got to thank you properly." Michael shook his head. "You don't need to. You did more for us than you'll ever know." Later, on stage, Amelia was asked to speak. She looked out over the crowd, her voice steady but full of emotion. 3 years ago, I was just a waitress. Tired, broke, and unsure of where I was going. I thought my life didn't matter much beyond the tables I served. But one morning, a little girl and her father came into my café. I gave her a cup of hot chocolate, and she gave me a reason to believe in myself again. She paused. And her father gave me a future. The room was silent. Some wiped away tears. She continued, "We think life is changed by big decisions. But sometimes, it's one smile. One gesture. One cup of kindness." Every Christmas Eve, Amelia returns to Sage and Thyme. She orders one hot chocolate. Whipped cream. Cinnamon. A tiny cookie on the side. Sometimes Sophie joins her, in her new wheelchair built from foundation funds. Sometimes Michael comes too, no longer the cold man he used to be, but a father learning how to feel. And every year, Amelia tips the waitress, no matter who it is, with an envelope, folded into a napkin. Inside is enough to spark a dream. Because once, someone had done the same for her. And it had